started because we got a couple things to make tonight. We actually got 3 things. So if you haven't met me before, I'm Kelley, the plant-based kitchenista. And I know usually everybody's asking about the recipes. They're all attached when you actually go into the meetup and stuff. You'll see that the recipes are all attached, and you can it's on a Google site, so you can go up there and grab it. And then the recording and stuff after tonight's class will be up there. So in case you want to watch it again or need something to watch before you go to sleep at night, that's where it'll be. So feel free to help yourself to that, and share the recipe with others, because it's all about community. So we're actually tonight going to make a baked hummus pasta, which is actually, I mean, it's got some chopping things and stuff that you'd have to do, but you can pretty much buy everything all chopped up and ready to go in the grocery stores now. But it's actually pretty easy. It's a one dish type of a thing that we're going to put together. And then, you can add all kinds of things like afterwards. If you wanted to add like a tomato sauce, like your favorite marinara, you could definitely do that. And you could add like a different, like a bechamel. I mean, there's all kinds of things you could add to it, but it's really good the way it is. And so we'll show you how to make a quick hummus, which I'm sure you guys have all made before, but quick, down and dirty, easy. And then a hummus too, same thing. You can add like roasted red peppers. You can add all kinds of flavors that you want with that. I usually prefer either roasted red pepper or just the regular hummus. And then we'll make a Tuscan artichoke salad, which is going to have all kinds of really good ingredients. You probably can't see them and stuff, but it has like asparagus and artichoke hearts and all kinds of good things that are going to go with the pasta. So a little bit of pasta, lots of vegetables, and lots of really good things. So one thing too, we are plant-based, no oil. So everything is, without oil. So if we do cook, saute things, it's always going to be vegetable broth, water, or vegetable stock, of course, or white wine. And white wine's usually only in tomato sauces. So we are definitely without oil. So if you have any questions, I'm going to introduce Jerry here in a second, who's a plant-based nutritionist. He can answer all the questions about it, or I can answer the questions and things. But definitely that's what we're looking to do. So I will go ahead and let Jerry. So if I'm looking over here to the left, just in case you see me, you'll see that I've got a computer over here, so I can see any of the chat or anything else that's going on when you're asking questions. So I will get Jerry up here to introduce himself, stick the microphone underneath his face so you can hear him.
Thank you.
As far as it goes.
Choke you. Yeah. Hi there, everyone. I'm Jerry Casados, a plant-based nutritionist. There's a lot of first-timers signed up, so introduce myself for those who don't know me. I have a private practice. I'm also a starch solution instructor for Dr. McDougall's program, which he's been doing for over 40 years now, getting people well on plant-based nutrition or starch-based diets. But we've been plant-based now for 15 years, and I did it for health reasons of my own. I was on 3 blood pressure meds and a cholesterol med. I didn't realize I had heart disease. I felt fine, but just taking the medications. And long story short, they wanted to do an angiogram. I said no. I went and saw McDougall. Got me off all my meds. 35 pounds later, I'm fine, doing well, off all meds. So I decided to go back to school and start nutrition practice, and because I fell in love with nutrition. So, but if you have any questions about nutrition, just in the chat window, just ask anything you want. Can answer any questions. We don't cook with oil because a lot of studies show that even olive oil and stuff do injure our endothelial layers in our blood vessels and arteries, which build up over time, cholesterol and plaque and all that. So they get repaired with the plant-based diet. So that kind of smooths them out like Teflon again. So that's how it reverses the heart disease. But oils do injure them over time. So we just don't use the oil, like most of the plant-based docs. So anywho, questions, I'm just going to sit and watch and eat the food. So thanks.
Yeah, so Teflon, good Teflon, because we always hear the stories about Teflon and all that. So it's the good Teflon, not the bad stuff. All right, let me click on here. You can hear me? Great. Okay, so we're going to get the pasta started. Like if you have any questions and stuff, definitely go ahead and put them in chat. We'll make sure that Jerry usually signals me with some kind of a finger or something, wand, whatever he's using for the day. And so I'll look and make sure that I answer all the questions, but feel free to ask any questions that you would like as far as, like if you've got like tips and tricks, and I'll usually share those type of things. But if you have like, oh, I don't like, let's just say something about like the yellow squash, can I substitute something in there? And I'll give you all kinds of tips and tricks, because that's what it's all about. All right, so we're going to start the baked hummus pasta. So let me go ahead and grab the dish. So big baking dish, but that's what I had. I couldn't find my smaller ones because I think maybe I've loaned it Jerry's daughter and stuff, I usually make a lot of things for her on Sundays and take it over. So I think she has my medium dish. So we're using the big one. That's what we're going to do. So glass, you could use, whatever type of baking dish that you have. It could be Corelle, it doesn't matter. So the first thing, if you're following along, I've got the oven at 400 degrees, so that's all ready. And so we've got the cherry tomatoes. So I just left them whole because once we get this pasta going and it's all been kind of, the tomatoes are blistered, then we're going to just kind of smash them up. So no need to cut up the tomatoes, which then makes it even easier. So just kind of dump those in. And you could do, if you love tomatoes, you could always add, and you don't want to go to the store, but you have lots of cans of like the like either, I wouldn't say no much crushed, but more like diced tomatoes or even the whole tomatoes. You could use those too. So that gives you just even more sauce and more of that tomato flavor, which is really good.
In Denver.
All right, Jerry's gonna mute real quick. All right, so we've got sun-dried tomatoes. Let me just put this off to the side here. So sun-dried tomatoes, I said to go ahead and use like the smoky flavors. So if you do the sun-dried tomatoes, of course, they're sort of kind of chewy, but not real soft. So I just soak them. What I always like to do is just soak them in water. And the good thing about it is when you soak them in water, you get all that flavoring. And so if you're making something that you really like that sun-dried tomato flavor, you could actually use the water that they've been soaking in to give it a really good, like if you want sun-dried tomatoes with pasta, then you've got a really, really good flavor. So you don't have to use your vegetable broth. So I did the smoked ones, which I really like. And then I also just did the regular. So you can tell that, once they've been soaking, they're really, really soft, which is nice. So it's not so chewy, which is a good thing. So I'm going to do part of these because they really expand out. And then I'll just set this over here so you can see. So I'm just going to do, you don't have to, but I'm just going to do a rough chop on them. That way you're not getting the really, like some of the pieces and stuff you'll see are pretty long. So it's more of like when you're chewing into something and you've got you've got your zucchini and your squash and stuff. It's all kind of that, everything goes together in your mouth. So it just kind of gives it a nice feeling, and you don't have something that's really chewy along with the nice vegetables. So, and if you do them, like I said, if you soak them, they're really easy to chop. And then if you make too many, let's just say you do, like it says, like what does it say? Half a cup of, let me just look real quick, third cup. So once you soak them, you want to do, so when you start that out, so start less than the third of a cup, because once you soak them, they expand out and you're going to have more than a third of a cup that you need. But you can always freeze them. So that's the next thing. All right, so I'm going to add those. So if you're just kind of reading along, so in the baking dish, you're going to add the cherry tomatoes, the sun-dried tomatoes, just kind of adding those in. The smoky ones, I will grab it out of the pantry really quick, and I can tell you which the brand is. I get them at King Soopers, but you can pretty much get them all the different grocery stores. Let me right back. And there we go, got them. So, okay, so the smoke, okay, so let me just grab the questions really quick because we're making everything together. Okay, so don't use oils, usually sun-dried tomatoes sold in oil. Yes, they're usually, you can buy them in the jars and stuff. Those are completely full of oil. You don't have to do that. You actually get them like this, and these little containers or these little plastic bags like this. They're usually on the shelves, all your natural grocers, King Soopers, Safeway, all those sell these. They're usually right where you see like the tomato sauces and that. And this one usually is real popular, the Bella Sun Lucci. It's just a regular sun-dried tomato. And you can see I keep bags of these around because these make like really good quesadillas. And then this one's California Sun-Dry, julienne cut, but it's also smoked. So this one's regular, and then there's a smoked one too. And so you just grab these out, and then you don't have the oil. So the ingredients and stuff is just sun-dried tomatoes, but they've just been basically almost like dehydrated. So you can get them like different. I've actually seen even a different flavor, and I can't remember what it was, but I usually grab I always have a plain one, just the regular sun-dried tomatoes, and then I have one that's smoked. And the smoke, like I said, makes really good Italian quesadillas. So I'll just put those right there. All right. Yeah, so there's all kinds of brands out there, but just look for, if you can't find them in the stores, Amazon carries them, so you could get a bag of those. They're usually about $3 to $4 a bag, But you're going to use, you only need a few of them and stuff to get things started. So you could buy one on Amazon, just look for the smoke flavor, and then away you go. So no oil. There's no oil in the sun-dried. They're just sun-dried. Okay, so I've got the sun-dried tomatoes in there, so I just kind of put those around also. And then we've got the garlic cloves. So I used roasted garlic. So I just took the regular bulbs of garlic and I had put them in and this is something I do on Sundays. I just put them in the oven at 350 and I let them kind of like roast for probably about 45 minutes to an hour. And then I peel them down and I put them in the freezer. So these have been in the freezer and I just grabbed them out and let them unthaw last night. They only take, if you've got them in the freezer, they only take a few minutes to unthaw anyway and to get ready to chop them. So I'm not going to chop them. I'm just going to put them in there just like that, because actually once it starts cooking, then of course what we're going to do is mush them up in there. So everything's really sticky tonight. Okay. And I'm going to add a little bit more I'll just add the rest of the sun-dried since I've got enough things in the freezer. I don't need anything else in there. Just add a little bit more. And they smell so good. The smoky flavor is really, really good. Perfect. All right, so I've got everything in there, and then 1 tablespoon of vegetable broth. So, of course, I always have vegetable broth. I always have extra garbanzo beans, everything. Went down, been out of town a couple weekends and stuff, went downstairs, no vegetable broth in the house. So, I'm just going to use water. Just add a little bit of that. That'll keep it also from sticking. But vegetable broth is always good too because it adds a little bit more flavor. But if you think about it, you got sun-dried tomatoes, you've got garlic, you've got all these great things in there. Don't really need any extra flavor, so water works just fine. All right, so now we need to do the hummus because we need to get that. That's going to go in the middle of this. You just grab food processor, can of garbanzo beans, or you could cook your own. I don't know if you guys have noticed too, garbanzo beans lately, there always seems to be one that doesn't quite look as good in the cans lately. So just pull that out. And then when you're dumping it into your food processor, just look. And if you see one that's a little bit darker that kind of looks a little strange, just pull it out. But I've noticed that in almost every can now. So, and I never used to see that before. We always use the Cooner's no salt, just because Jerry's a little bit, I guess not really a little bit, he doesn't like salt. So what I always do is I don't cook with salt, but then I always, if I want it on the table, I'll add it. So then we're going to do tahini. I will grab a spoon. So just regular tahini. And you can play with your tahini because it really depends on what tahini that you get. There's some that you get like in the jars and stuff, and there'll be like quite a bit of oil, like the tahini oil and stuff on the top. A lot of times and stuff, I'll drain that out. But sometimes when it's all mixed up really well together. But tahini is actually one of the things that you can use. But sometimes you'll get tahini that is like a solid brick, and you're going to have to, probably put some water and maybe some other things in it to get your hummus smooth. You can also make hummus without tahini. A lot of hummus recipes that you see, of course, have the tahini, but you could also just use, if you've actually cooked up your garbanzo beans. You could actually, if you take a lot of like the skin off of the garbanzo beans and they're really soft, you could blend it up with a little bit of water or vegetable broth and get the same consistency without tahini. So, be good if I hit on versus off. Just kind of let it go. You can grab a spatula. You will more than likely have to get a spatula and just kind of, tap everything down just a little bit. If it gets a little thick, one of the things you can do, water or vegetable broth. You don't want to add any more tahini. That was perfect. So if you were going to make it a flavored tahini, this is where you would add the roasted red peppers, you could add your basil, you could add all the different things like that into it. So play with it as much as you want and figure out like how creamy you want it. You don't want it real creamy, like a whole bunch of water and things like that in it, because you're going to be putting it into the pasta sauce and you're going to be adding the pasta water. So that's all you do with that. So let me just pull this off because we'll have the blender here in just a second. So I have my hummus. You can see that It's actually very smooth. So you just want to, we actually just want to blend it enough in your food processor or your blender, whichever you're looking to do, enough where you've got it creamy and you don't have the like pieces of garbanzo beans in it. All right, so in the center, so we just kind of have to move things around. And as you can tell, it's already pretty. It already looks good. So just right in the center, I'm gonna add the hummus. And actually, so it makes just a little bit more of the, than a cup of the hummus, but I'm gonna go ahead and just add it. So I'll kind of just measure it out a little bit. If I have a little bit left over, that's okay, because we always have carrots and celery and things like that in the fridge. And I could always add some roasted red peppers, and then guess who will eat it tomorrow? Just add a little bit more. It's a big dish, so I'll just add. There we go. Little taste. No salt or sugar, or not salt or sugar, or salt or pepper, but you're going to add all the spices here in just a second. So right now it's kind of like garbanzo beans that have been ground up. So not a lot of flavor than what you're seeing, but think about all the flavors that are going to go around it and are all going to get mixed in, which will make it really good. Okay, so then we're going to add, you've got basil, so dried basil. You've got oregano and rosemary. So those are all the ones. Be careful on your spices. So what I always talk about, these are all like in tune to like my taste, but then class's taste, because we used to do a lot of face-to-face classes, and we're actually going to start those in our area here just to kind of get back out again. But always go low on your spices is what I would say. So you can always add, so even if you make this dish, you can always add more basil, more oregano, more rosemary. So if I said something like a half a teaspoon of dried basil, you like basil, put it in. Oregano, play with it, because I actually said a half a teaspoon, but you may not be a fan of a lot of oregano, so go low. Go like maybe an eighth or a quarter of a teaspoon, and then always add into it. So just kind of take it and sprinkle it on. And I always say do that for every recipe, go low and add, because you can always add, you can't take away. So once it's in there and you taste it and you're like, oh my gosh, that tastes terrible, it's too late. And what I find, and I think you guys would probably agree, most recipes that are out there, especially when they're plant-based or they're vegan, they tend to overspice them. And so they're like, well, you need all these spices because you're putting in vegetables, and that's not true. And a lot of times you'll get stuff that'll be like the oregano or the rosemary just kind of almost like burns your mouth. So go low, add into it. All right, so you've got everything in there, and then you've got a little bit of remaining broth. So just kind of play with it a little bit. I have water because, like I said, unbelievable. I usually have 20 boxes of broth, but none in the house this time. So I just added that in, and then making sure we've got it. So we're going to put it in the oven. So you can just see right now, just starting out, how pretty. And think about it too, if you didn't want to add pasta to this and you were doing like friends and family were coming over, you could bake this out and have baked hummus and with all the vegetables, and then mix everything in and use it as a dip. So almost started just a regular dip here. So let me get this in the oven. All right, let me do a quick rinse on because I got sun-dried tomatoes everywhere. Because we're going to start a little bit on the salad. All right, so I've got vegetable rice that I'm going to add into the dish here in just a few minutes. So I'm going to watch. So I actually put it in at 554. So depending on your oven, it says 20 to 25 minutes before your tomatoes and stuff to actually blister. Just watch it. I have a gas oven, so it's we used to have electric, and it was a convection oven, so it would do things really quick. And so it was, instead of like 20 to 25 minutes, it'd be like in 15 or 10 minutes. And so this one's gas, and so I'm going to kind of watch it a little bit. Once they start kind of like, you'll see the blistering, and I'll show you when I pull them out. You'll see the tomatoes blister. That's when you're going to want to start adding the other vegetables, so that you're going to get them a nice crispy but not soggy. Because when you're using zucchini and like a yellow squash, if you cook them too long or you've steamed them, I know you guys have probably done like stir fry, they get mushy, or your zucchini, pretty much the inside, the white part of the zucchini goes away and you just have the rind because it's cooked too long. You want these to be like really perfectly al dente type vegetables. So we'll definitely show you that. And then of course we're going to have red pepper. If you've got the extra roasted red pepper from the Tuscan artichoke salad, you could add that in there without cutting up another red bell pepper. Fresh basil, of course, love basil. If you don't know, you can freeze basil and use it. So if you end up buying like one of the bigger boxes, because it's, you got a great price. So these are like usually what, $1.99. And then you get the bigger boxes when sometimes they'll go on sale for like $2.99. I will buy the big box of basil, and then I will pull off some of the stems that are on there and just, the leaves and stuff, and I'll put them in a baggie and freeze it. And then when I'm ready to do tomato sauces, etc., I just crumble up the basil or I chop it up, and away it goes into soups and all kinds of different things. So that's good. And then we'll talk about nutritional yeast here in just a minute or two. And when we're getting close to that, looks like I spilled the sun-dried tomato juice a little bit. And then once we get that going, I'll kind of walk through that. So Tuscan artichoke salad, yum. Grab everything. We always talk about in classes, like how fun to come home and somebody's done all this chopping and things for you. I agree. And this is not a lot of chopping, but enough that, if you've got to do that, then you definitely don't want to have to do all the chopping. So in the meantime, too, I'm going to get the pasta going because we need pasta for the hummus, for the baked hummus pasta. So I'm just using mini penne. You could use, any type of noodle that you like. You could do spaghetti. You could do whatever you like. But I figured since I'm doing, more kind of like the bite-sized pieces of the vegetables, that a mini penne would actually be really good. So let me just add that in so that's all ready to go. I'm sorry. And then I got a question. Let me look. Let me just go back. I'm going to go back out of, I'm going to go just chat. That way I can see the questions because they're kind of sinking to the bottom. All right. Yeah, roasted. Yeah, red bell peppers, and you can do that too. And thank you, Mona, for letting us know that. But bell peppers sometimes, they tend to be a little expensive right now because of like all the shortages. But if you get bell peppers, and sometimes like on our King Supers or grocery stores, they'll put like a whole bunch of them together, like red, yellow, green, and they'll say $1 because it's a clearance, and they're just starting to get like wrinkled. You can still take those home, chop them up, put them in the oven, on like a parchment lined baking sheet and bake them or roast them and stuff for like to 350 until they get all kind of messed, kind of like all mushed up and roasted and stuff, and then peel off the skin and chop them up and have them for a long time. So a lot cheaper to do that way and just keep big bags of them and put them in like hash browns and all, potatoes, salads, all that. We do that all the time. Fresh artichoke. So no, not using fresh artichoke, but you could. So if you like to be able to do the fresh artichokes and have the actual, the what am I trying to say? The inner part of the artichoke, you could actually do that. I just use the can. So the cans, you can get them, of course, same thing. You can get them in oil, but you can also get them in like brine or water. So this one is definitely a brine or a water one. So, all right. So we're going to first do the dressing because we need to have that ready. So let me just grab the blender. Whole wheat pasta. I always use, it's usually like a whole grain, whole wheat type of pasta. Just plug this in. I'll unplug the food processor. Oh my goodness. Won't let go because I don't need that anymore. All right, so dressing. Great dressing. This one is, I would say, like really close to what we call the crack dressing that a lot of people ask for. When I always say, and I say on the recipe, if you've got your recipe in front of you, anytime I make a dressing, especially if it's like a balsamic and it has like the flax seeds and things in it, I usually would do that 4 times of what the recipe says, because then I have it extra left over. And a lot of times and stuff, I'll make it like on a weekend and I'll do a whole, like a quart mason jar, and I'll fill it up with the dressing so that Jerry and I have it all the time. So love it. All right, so if you're following along, I've got balsamic vinegar. And like I said, I've actually upped the recipe. I was looking for my spatula. I've upped the recipe, so that's all ready. Very thick balsamic. Smells good. Yeah, I just seen if you answer. I just saw it flip, so I was making sure we answered the questions. All right, and then we've got a small shallot. So if you don't have a shallot, or you're just getting ready to, you're at home and you're making it, you could always use red onion, white onion, scallions, anything else that you want. Jerry's good, really good, loves to go out. He loves to go out during the day and goes to the store for me. So he got a shallot. Like I said, any type of onion will really work. It's just your shallots are your, it's your lighter onion, so it doesn't give as much of that harsh onion flavor. And I don't know about you guys and stuff, but a lot of times when I'm cutting into onions right now, I don't know if it's like their shelf life or what's going on with them, but no matter what, they make you cry. It's like all of a sudden you'll have tears dripping down the side of your face. So they're really potent right now with that. And I even like the red onions that are sitting here for the salad. I can smell them. But I like onions. Anything with onions and garlic is good. Parsley, you could use fresh parsley if you have that in your refrigerator. Then Grey Poupon, love Grey Poupon. Sometimes what I'll do with this recipe is I'll add 3 mustards. So I'll do Grey Poupon, so I'll cut back a little bit on that because it can be very strong. I'll add in yellow mustard, and then I'll add in stone ground mustard into this exact same recipe. And then you kind of get a little bit of that spiciness, but a little bit of the smokiness from this, depending on what kind of stone ground mustard you use. And then a little bit of that like acid and stuff that's from the yellow mustard. So it's really good. Anything like a 3 mustard dressing are good if you like mustard, and I do. Jerry does too. He'll pretty much anything with mustard he's a fan of. Just scrape that off. Dijon has become my favorite of anything. Like if you get a make a sandwich or anything like that, I love the Dijon flavor. It's just it's a really good flavor. And then you've got agave. So if you don't want to use agave, it's like everything's sticky tonight. If you don't want to use agave, you could do, what am I trying to say? Maple syrup, thank you. Or you could use like a date paste, or you could say, I don't want to do any of those. And then I want to just go ahead and use like a little bit of monk fruit sweetener. So you can do that. So I just have the agave. Agave used to be for dressings, that used to be the ingredient that gave, of course, a little bit of sweetness, but it was also the ingredient that kind of held your dressing together. Because you know that like when you're doing your balsamics, a lot of times and stuff, when you make a salad, you put your balsamic vinegar on it, everything soaks to the bottom, and then you have this big pool of balsamic. Well, if you put the agave on it, it actually helped it cling to the lettuce. But now you don't need that because ground flax seeds. So that's why you have to have the blender versus just, whisking it up. So I've got the ground flax seeds in there, and I put that in. That's basically like a flax egg. You mix that in, and it actually makes everything really thick. And so you get like all your balsamic dressings, and you could do like your apple flavors, your cranberry flavors and all that. If you add in the flaxseed, that's what gives it the thickness. And then if you have it in the fridge, and let's say you made a whole bunch of it, like a big jar, if it gets too thick, just add a little bit of water, whisk it up, and away it goes. So if I need some water, I might just need it just to that. So I'll just put some water right there. All right, I've got my lid. My beat up lid, which I need to order a new one. I just need to order a whole new canister one of these days. I'm not going to do it really, really high because otherwise it goes. Just going to get it blended a little bit. Just need enough and stuff where you're actually blending up the shallots and you're blending up the flax seeds. The flax seeds get mixed in there and they'll start adding like a thickening agent. Another thing I tried, because one time I didn't have flax seeds, I actually did chia seeds. So I just put the chia seeds in there. The only thing that I noticed is like a couple days later, it was a little almost like a pudding thick versus dressing thick. But that would be the same thing, just add some water into it and smooth it down. Because I know a lot of people have chia seeds all around all the time, but not necessarily flax. Let's go a little bit higher. Put that over there. So nice, let me just pull a spoon out and I'll show you So nice thick dressing already. Like I said, if it's too thick, like you've got a different balsamic, and that happens because different balsamics soak up the water or the actual liquids different, then just add a little bit of water or vegetable broth to it. But it's got sweetness. So what's really good about it, it's got sweetness to it, but it also has, like your Dijon flavor, and then your balsamics in there. So you got a little bit of kind of like the sweet, a little bit of kind of the Grey Poupon, kind of the acid. I mean, just all those different flavors. It's really good. Just eat it with a spoon. It's that good. All right, let me unplug the blender so I can get it out of the way so you guys can see. Guarantee you will try this dressing. You will like it, and you will make a bunch of it. It's just that good. I get asked for this dressing all the time. All right. So don't need any water because I'm going to be mixing everything up. So then we have, so different ingredients. We have asparagus, which I steamed. So I just did a really light steam. So you've got it where it's al dente and it's crisp. You could leave it hot if you wanted to. This is more room temperature. I have garbanzo beans. So I just noticed there's, see, I swear, every can, there's always this, I think it's supposed to be like the Cracker Jacks, it's your prize. So there's your garbanzo beans. Even Jerry, when I was saying that, shook his head like, yep, there's always at least one in there. Yeah, I've never seen that except once in a blue moon before COVID. Yeah. And then I've got artichoke hearts, but you could do your fresh ones if you wanted to. Then I have roasted red peppers, so I chop those up. I have red onion. Do start low on your red onion, add to it. And then, of course, tomatoes. Do that. So I've got everything in here. So what I'll do is so I've got the asparagus done. So I am going to grab a bigger bowl just because this bowl's not going to hold everything that I need to do in there. So we're going to add the chopped vegetables. I would say with your asparagus, and put off to the side. Let me grab. Still going. I'm going to just up it up a little bit. Okay. So asparagus, you could actually just do it because you've got, all these different like chunks. So I always talk about like the mouthfeel. So when you put, you've got this great bite, you have everything that's on your fork. So you have everything that can fit. Like, so if you've got asparagus that's big, this big, you've got tomatoes that are this small, doesn't really match up. So you're kind of looking at how do you want to mix things together? So asparagus, there's a couple ways. You could just do small chunks, which is something you could do, or you could actually half it down the middle and then do small chunks. So depending on how, like if you're like right now, these are perfect. The perfect size. Jerry did a great job on chopping. Perfect size I was looking for. Sometimes you'll see asparagus and you'll get sometimes even like white asparagus and they're big stalks. That's when I would recommend slicing them down the middle and then doing like your chunks and stuff. I'm actually going to do, so we said how many did we need? Let's see, we said 6 stalks. I'm going to add a little bit more. Jerry is not upset that I steamed the whole bunch and it's ready because he figures that what we'll probably end up doing is maybe heat it. He'll put it in his pasta. He'll eat some tomorrow. We like asparagus. So I'm just going to grab quite a few pieces and I'm just going to let me just set this over here too so you can make sure I'm not blocking seeing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got plenty. All right. And I think I'll half it right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a diagonal cut just because it's pretty. And when you do a diagonal cut with asparagus or you do it with carrots and stuff, it just adds that extra kind of like, I guess I would say oomph, which is really nice. So just kind of line them all up on your cutting board. And then, or you can just do them, separate. I think I'll just take them down even just so because sometimes your knife will slip a little bit and then it doesn't cut as well. So you just start at a diagonal and you just go all the way up the stalks. I'll show you after I cut them here. And I'm going to leave a little bit of the bigger pieces. So what's really nice when you do asparagus, you can see the outside, which is a darker green, and then you have the inside, which is a lighter green. And it just makes, when you add it, it's just so pretty when it's cut at the diagonal. I do that a lot with carrots, especially if I'm going to do a stir fry, just because I like the way that, carrots that are really thin, but then they're long like this and they have the nice diagonal cut. They just look great. And Penny, you might hear who's clicking around, one of our dogs here, loves carrots. So she doesn't care if they're diagonal or anything. She just likes them. And you could do really big chunks or small, but I'm trying to match up kind of everything of how we're eating. So you get that nice, so if you put your fork in it, you get the full bite. So that was like 10 stalks. It doesn't look like a lot, but I think when the salad and stuff, I can always add a little bit more, but Jerry will probably give me a look and stuff from the other side of the camera, like, don't use all the asparagus because I want to be able to eat it. So that's going to look good, and it's got a nice green flavor or nice color to it, so that's great. All right, so then we've got the artichoke hearts the other way. So all I did, these were whole artichoke hearts, so I just sliced them up, like quartered them, just so same thing, the pieces that you're biting into and stuff is a really good piece. So there's probably still a little bit of liquid, so I'm just gonna kind of grab everything out, add it in. This was a full can. These were actually in water. Set that in like that. If you don't want to use the whole can, save them. You can freeze them. And then you can also put them like on pizzas or, different salads or anything like that. You can kind of separate out the pieces just a little bit, which is really nice. And then we've got the roasted red peppers. So same thing, even though you actually drained them, you can see that they're still liquid. So just drain it out a little bit. And I just chopped them up into little bite-sized pieces. They were really big pieces, so just add those in. And it's a really, if you look at it, even before I start putting things in it, it's a beautiful salad because you've got all those colors. You've got the reds, the greens, the kind of like the yellow whites and all that. So without even doing anything to them, looks great. Getting close. Smells delicious. All right, garbanzo beans. If you don't like garbanzo beans, same thing, look for the little, if there's any bad ones, or I don't know if they're bad or what they are, but I don't want to eat them. So same thing, if you don't like garbanzo beans, you could do no beans. You could actually do pasta in this if you wanted to. You could do cannellini white beans, navy beans, pinto beans, whatever you want, black beans would actually be, so it's just change it however you'd like. If you have any, I rinsed and drained them, but there looks like there's still a little bit of moisture, so I'm going to just drain that real quick. We like garbanzo beans, so it's definitely a big, hearty garbanzo bean night. Jerry used to hate garbanzo beans in a salad. This was before vegan. So now loves garbanzo beans and everything. Eats, the mock tuna salad, all that with garbanzo beans. So we go through, I usually, when I go to the grocery store, I buy a case or two of the Cooner's no salt, and I buy black beans and all that, and we have a little storage space down in the basement, and we have it on hand all the time. So just making sure that we can make, whatever we need, hummus, all those type of things. All right, so I got the cherry tomatoes. So, whoops, make sure I don't lose everything. I don't see any liquid much there. So I just chopped them up, quartered them. You could leave them whole, especially if you got the little baby sweet tomatoes that are out there right now. These were a little bit bigger, so I chopped those up. Then we've got the red onion. You could do white onion, yellow onion, scallions, whatever you'd like to do. I'm just going to add, it looks good. I kind of cut back a little bit on the onions because when they're really, really strong, if you do that, if you put all of them in there, sometimes it'll overpower your salad, and that's all you taste is the onions. All right, so we already had the asparagus, so let me get the asparagus out of the way before I knock it over. There we go. All right, so we've got everything in there, and then of course the last thing is arugula. If you don't like arugula, spinach works. I usually give like a rough chop to spinach because sometimes you'll get leaves that are really big. Or you could do like, what's some of the other ones I was thinking of? We could do like a green leaf. You could do a red leaf. You could do just regular, romaine, which is one of my favorites. Or you could do like those really fancy. I don't know if you've seen them in the stores, but they have like a fancy trio of different lettuces. You could cut those up there and mix it all in. Arugula is good in this because you're going to add like a dressing that is tangy but a little sweet. Arugula has that pepper taste. I used to not like arugula at all, but now I love it. And a lot of times what I'll do with the arugula is I will actually do arugula with red grapes, or, if you got green grapes and stuff, doesn't really matter. And then that and a little bit of avocado, roasted walnuts, and then I'll use this balsamic dressing. It is so good. Jerry and I will eat a whole box of arugula doing that because it's so good. It's like sweet and spicy and all that. It's one of my favorite salads. So then just kind of grab, you can do it with your hands if you want to, tongs, just kind of start mixing it up. I'm good. I just dropped garbanzo beans, I think, all over the floor. So let me grab, I think one got away. Didn't say I was never messy. That happens. I don't know if you've ever been in kitchens, like true restaurant kitchens. They're not always nice and clean unless somebody's been cleaning right behind everybody. So things happen. I've burnt towels. I was in a cooking class one time and a gas stove next to me caught one of my white towels. So everything happens. Okay, so there we go. So adding the color, just so I can get it where you can see it. So there's all the beautiful colors. Doesn't that look good? Dressing's not even on it yet. I'll dress it here in just a couple minutes. You could also start adding like some of your fresh herbs. So you could do like the parsley if you wanted to. Like if you love lots of fresh herbs, parsley, basil, anything else that you've got out there, rosemary, etc. if you wanted to add that to it. But otherwise, something just like this is delicious. And the cool thing about this too, what you could do is if you have pizza dough, you could actually make a pizza and put this right on top, which would be yummy. I would like that. Okay, let me look at the vegetables because I think it's time to get the vegetables and everything going. Yep, perfectly blistered. So there we go. There's the hummus blistered. You've got everything else going. You've got a little bit of moisture, but we're going to add moisture in it too here in just a few minutes. But we want to get, if it needs a little bit, feel free to add it, depending on how your stove burns things off. So this is, I'm going to add just a little bit, but I'm going to add the vegetables first. So red bell peppers. Well, let me check. Maybe make sure I'm fine. Okay. Okay, halfway, you're going to add the vegetables. Just make sure. You want to make sure I wasn't not mixing up the hummus. And you're like, wait, you forgot something. It's been a while since I've made this one. Okay, there's one. I think I dropped one on the floor. I did. Then I've got yellow squash. If you don't like yellow squash, you could actually just do more zucchini. If you want to add something like eggplant is another good one. Cauliflower, broccoli. I mean, all those flavors. I'll show you what this looks like here in a second. This was just one large yellow squash. I've got zucchini. Broccoli and cauliflower would be really good in this too. So I haven't mixed the hummus yet. So the hummus is going to be here in just a few minutes. So I'm going to add the vegetables. So I'm on number 4. So what am I trying to say? Step number 4. So I'm adding in all the vegetables because I need to cook those. And then once I got everything kind of cooked, then I'm going to come back in and mix everything in. All right, so I've got the zucchini in there. I've got everything else. Let's see what else we're going to add. So once the tomatoes, so we've got everything in there. So I'm going to do that here in just a second. Let me just get these in, get these blistered. Won't take very long. And then I'm going to mix it up. So if you want, ouch, you could actually mix up the hummus first. So there's 2 different ways. You can mix the hummus up first and then put all the vegetables in there so everything's mixed together. Or you could wait, put all the vegetables in, get them kind of like roasted up, and then kind of mix in the tomatoes because they're going to be really soft. So either one of those is easy to do. Completely up to you and however you want to do the recipe. All right, hummus is done. That's done. Okay, so it shouldn't be too long to get that going. I'm going to turn it up just so we have time. All right, so got the water. Don't need the water anymore. So when that comes out, once we mix everything up together, then what we're going to do is we're going to add nutritional yeast. So if you don't know about nutritional yeast, it's basically a yeast and stuff that actually gives you the flavor of having cheese. So if you're making like a what am I trying to say? Can't talk it today. Lasagna that has like your tofu cheese and that kind of thing, or your ricotta, then you use the nutritional yeast and then you add that in and stuff, and it gives you that cheese flavor. So a lot of times when you're taking things over for parties, or you're just eating it and you want things to taste like the cheese, nutritional yeast is what people use. That's one of the ingredients. And I know some people don't like it, nutritional yeast, but it's actually really good if you do like your air pop popcorn and you put nutritional yeast, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper on it. Really good. Gives you a really nice flavor. So we're going to add that in there. Let me get the basil going because we'll need the basil. Nice, huge leaves, basil. Another good chopping job, Jer. Is it wet? Non-fortified, not as strong. Yes. So yes, there's different types of there's Bragg's, of course, if you can't find it and they're in the, like if you don't have a natural grocers or something, Bragg's has it and they sell it in like these little shaker bottles, but non-fortified, fortified, there's all kinds of different ones. I just get the ones from natural grocers and just because we have one here. And then what I do is it comes in these big bags like this and I just fill up. I've got some those little kind of like the glass jars with the nice lids on them. I just fill it up and then just use it as I need it. So basil, what I did, as you saw what I did, I took all the leaves, I kind of lined them all up together like this, even the small ones. And then what I do, like if you don't want the big stems, you can just kind of pull those off, put them on the side. I just roll them up, so get the biggest leaf on the outside, roll them up like that. Kind of reminds you probably of like the somebody doing cigars type of thing. So you roll it up and then grab your knife and you do a chiffonade. So when you roll it up like this, and you can do it at an angle, you can do it straight across. I'm going to do it at an angle. You just do nice little tiny cuts all the way down. Watch your fingers. Once in a while you may miss a piece, just go like that. And then you get these nice ribbons of basil. So they're really pretty. And it's just this nice pile of basil that I'm going to put right off to the side. But that's how you do chiffonade. So if you ever see a recipe and you're like, what is chiffonade? Roll up your basil and do the nice little cuts all the way across. Or if you don't want to get your knife out, rip it, just as easy. But like I said, once I have like this and let's just say I'm not going to be using this for a couple of days, freeze it. Just take off some of the longer stems and then put it in a baggie and freeze it. And then you've got basil, fresh basil all the time. I'll get the lemon ready. So that'll be ready to go. All right, now dressing. So I'm going to add a little bit of dressing. Let me just grab always have handy the gloves. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of dressing. You can see it's thick. If you don't want to use your hands, the tongs work just as well. But what's really nice about getting in there with your hands like this, you're not wanting to, like if you had like kale, you'd really want to, like massage it in because anything like lemons, limes, mustards, and avocado work really well on kale to break it down so it's not so chewy. But with, you've got arugula, so you don't need to really break it down. And then you have all these soft vegetables like your tomatoes and artichokes. So it's just more of mixing it. And when you massage in your dressing like this, it actually keeps it from, not pooling on the bottom. So you don't have like your last bit of lettuce is swimming in dressing. Also gives you the chance to pull all the goodies from the bottom up. So in this salad too, I was just thinking about, you could add some fresh avocado, which would be really good because it's got that smooth creaminess. Take that off. I think the floor probably has more things than the counter right now. Isn't that pretty? So the way to taste it to see if you've got enough dressing, of course, is always your lettuce. It's like perfect. And so the good thing about it is I still have enough dressing for a whole nother salad. And if you did want to mix your arugula in, you could always put the arugula on the bottom and then you put all the vegetables that have the dressing on the top. But it's so pretty mixed together. Get everything out. Can't have all the goodies that you chopped up going to waste. That looks pretty good. All right. So there is the Tuscan artichoke salad all dressed up and ready to go. Isn't that pretty? Almost looks like, you could, like, especially with holidays coming up with it's almost like holiday colors. But I guarantee you this, any time of year and stuff, this is a salad that everybody's going to want. And like I said, before you put the dressing on it, you could have put this on a pizza and it would have been really good too. A little bit of tomato sauce, this. or even hummus. You could do that. All right, I got about 5 more minutes, maybe no less than that. I will get that going. Perfect dressing, keep that for later. What a question. Non-fortified, strong, yep. All right. Just about another minute or two. What questions do you have while I'm waiting for the pasta to get ready? It's only going to take a minute or two to mix it up once I get it. Oh, let me check my pasta. You definitely could have been like, Kelley, check your pasta. Good thing I did. Perfect. All right, let me grab everything kind of out of here so I don't pour everything all over the dishes. All right, I'm just going to drain the pasta. Oops, crap. Oh man, I can't believe I just did that. See, I tell you, everything happens to everybody. Just grab. Good thing is I have a saver that I can save it. I have clumsy. I don't know about you guys, but do you guys ever have clumsy days? I do. I have a whole drainer thing, which is nice, so it doesn't go right into the sink. And it's clean, so there we go. Just get it out, and then we are good. People are gonna watch this video later and gonna be like, what is she doing? Okay, there we go. Perfect. All right, ouch, it's hot. I even spilled it. I can see it up on the counter. There we go. Make sure it's not blocking anything. Perfect. Like I said, I want the vegetables to be al dente, so let me grab them out. Nothing worse than vegetables that are mush. Oh, it smells beautiful. So before I do anything, that's what it looks like. And one thing that you could have done too is you could have roasted up all your different vegetables ahead of time. So let me grab my fork. So you'll notice and stuff that it's pretty much, you can see all the tomatoes. So just get in there with your fork, do the tomatoes. Just kind of squish them. They are so soft that it just takes just a little bit of a squish. Then you'll find your garlic in there. A little bit of that, especially when it's roasted. There's tomato. This is like blistering hot. You sure could. You could definitely put these in serving sizes. This one, like I said, I made it just a little bit bigger because Jerry's he will get up like as early as he can to hit the refrigerator for lunch tomorrow. So this is probably a little bit more vegetables and things that you would normally have in the recipe. But it's all good. So yes, you could all freeze this up. Make sure I got all the garlic, everything else in there. Yep. Okay. Yes, the tomatoes are great. Here's like a tomato right here. So nice and blistered, but all kinds of flavor that's in there. Okay, so mix it up so you're following along on the recipe because I got the last couple minutes that I'll show you everything. Make sure I got it all because you got to follow the recipe because otherwise I get off on that. So we got the garlic, everything mixed up, tomatoes, vegetables, all the things. Get it all into a thicker sauce. When you're mixing everything up, you can see if you've got the garlic. Make sure you didn't miss any pieces of garlic. That's why I say you could actually, because I know somebody asked a question earlier, you could actually mix it up and do the hummus and the tomatoes and the garlic first and then add in your vegetables. That way you don't get a big chunk of garlic, but you can see that it's really easy just to mix it all up. All right, so then we've got the pasta. Try not to dump it this time. Good thing is I only lost a little bit, so that's good. Put that in there. All right, well, I need that. I need the pasta water. So it's thick right now. So one of the things that you're going to add is you're going to add the pasta water. Just tip it a little bit easier. And I'll keep off some to the side just in case. It smells so good. It's like creamy. It's almost like an Alfredo sauce, but with all kinds of roasted vegetables and everything else in it. So let me just get this mixed up so you can see it. You could add basil inside of it if you wanted to mix it all up, or you can just add the basil to the top. Take just a minute to get it mixed. Then I've got the nutritional yeast. So you're going to want to add that in there. Sprinkle it on. Same thing, start low on your nutritional yeast, add to it. I'm going to taste it here in a second. Notice I do a little bit of pepper. I do. It is my clumsy day. I got to watch it. Like I'm going to be one of those ones that, no, I won't say it. It's like step off a curb. Got to watch it. You just want to make sure you mix it really good because you don't want to have like a big pile of the hummus there. Oh my God, this smells good. Okay. Oh. Penny down below is like, yay, thanks, Mom. Okay, taste it really quick. A little bit of nutritional yeast. Got the basil. Add a little bit of lemon. Oh my gosh. Just a little bit of lemon, basil. Add your salt. If you want to do the salt, that's what I'd recommend to do there. All right. Beautiful. Penny's got the pasta down below. I don't know if it's best for her, but it's all good. All right, so just switch out real quick. And then you guys get to make your own dinner. So if I'm going to show it, you don't want to see the mess. There we go. There is the baked hummus pasta, and then you've got the Tuscan artichoke salad. So there is dinner for us tonight. Nice crispy vegetables, got lots of extra asparagus, all that. But doesn't that look good? And easy. One pot dish, which I love. So I hope you guys enjoyed. So I will get the next class out. The next class is going to be sushi. So we're going to make some sushi and a couple other things. Because that's always something that, Jerry and I miss and stuff when, when COVID hit and not getting out as much. So we've definitely been getting good at doing sushi. So we'll see you that. And then, of course, in November, we'll have our holiday classes, and December will be holiday classes. So you won't want to miss those either. So see you guys soon. Let me put this down since I'm clumsy today. Love you guys. See you next in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.